road. That is the majority of our fight. The fact that we cannot see sometimes past the systems that hold us back. So if this movie, if all it's done is just change the way that we think, that's enough for me.
Yeah. I already saw the film,
well,
so there's
apparently
no need.
You didn't watch it.
I don't need you to. You need to stop. You need to stop making your little subliminal comment.
Not a subliminal comment.
Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of African Millennials. Today we'll be discussing about Black Panther. Chavez, go ahead, read the question for us.
All right, let's see. So, dear AMS, my question is simple. Was the film Black Panther really good for the culture, i.e. the Black African culture? From Mike in New York.
Was that
Okay.
All right, Mike.
Definitely.
Was there a slash between Black and African?
Oh, good question.
Right.
Actually, there was.
Okay, that helps me answer my question. Thank you.
I'll make a comment. So we all got an opportunity to see the movie. Cool. I think that Black Panther was not necessarily good for the culture.
What?
I think the reason why I don't think it was because I think Black people and African people, I think we have an issue with making symbolisms of like great power in our community always has to be some type of fictional character.
Right.
So there was a great, and it's funny because it's the same actor, but Chadwick, he also did Thurgood Marshall's movie, and Marshall was a real person who did real work, and I think that movie would have been a better movie to have a lot more Black support with because it's something that actually happened. It's always
people don't really talk about it.
People don't really talk about it. It's always a superhero movie that they want to get behind for Black people, or it has to be an athlete. It can't be somebody that's a real person that did regular work that was more powerful than made up stuff. Black Panther was supposed to be about a comic book superhero. I think there were some themes to pull from it, but I feel like people took it way too serious. There's a bunch of other things that show more importance for things that were meant to show some type of disconnect or show some type of life lessons that you can pull about it more so than a fictional character in a made-up land.
But you gotta remember, was Marshall's like a true story?
It was a true story about Thurgood Marshall.
That's kind of different.
But this is history though. Like no kid, you can't really think about the first time growing up seeing a a real live Black action superhero movie, and not to mention based in Africa.
Right.
And it portrayed, I guess, despite the fact that Wakanda is a fictional place, just letting y'all know so y'all don't think it's real.
I think some people really starting to think Wakanda is actually real.
True that.
Wakanda is not real. And it sounds dumb to have to say that, but I think some people actually believe that Wakanda was real. They can go visit it.
But at the same time, it represented Africa more in a positive light. It didn't represent Africa, this 10 cent a day country type thing. So I think
that Africa had riches.
Definitely, that's what it did. Even though it wasn't real, but it actually gave African Americans and Africans hope to be all right, this is what we could achieve. We can actually be this.
And it also broke the stereotypes of a lot of the roles that Black people play in movies in Hollywood. And I mean, yes, it's not a true story, but still, it's an amazing imagery. It's positive imagery of Black people, and that's lacking in Hollywood.
But you know what I will say though? I kind of feel like it showed the difference between Blacks and Africans. The Africans weren't, because the Africans really didn't, or I would say Wakanda didn't accept Killmonger because he was Black American. Even though he shares our blood, he wasn't one of us because he was raised in America.
And
that's a real issue.
But is that so? Because I think it's not that he was in America, it's that they knew nothing about him.
Yeah.
It was because he was American.
But they knew nothing about him. They even didn't know that the father was killed. So it was different if he was.
When they did find out he had an heir.
They still didn't
They still
accept
didn't
him.
accept
Until he
him.
died to
Accept
beat up
him,
T'Challa.
I think that's the
Wakanda was
definition.
closed off to the world. Like
It
they didn't
was.
even, not even
Absolutely.
other African countries. They really
Absolutely.
banked with other African.
Africans and African Americans are different, completely different.
No,
Culturally.
yeah,
Culturally, yeah.
And there is a
Absolutely.
disconnect between us.
But it also, we've talked about this before, how Africans feel like
They're different.
Black Americans are like different, but they feel like they take things for granted. They're spoiled. They're this and they're
It's
that.
'cause
You
of
know what I'm
generational-
saying?
Under that same premise, I'm like, Killmonger is like the representation of the African American that wants to be part of a culture that he doesn't necessarily respect,
Yeah.
right? Like, so you're coming in and you want to be in charge and you want to run things, but you don't understand the order that's already been placed before you got there. But I think that it is important for the culture because of that, because it brings these conversations. Like, there were so many Black Americans and Africans and however else you identify coming together, whether it be on Twitter or Instagram, talking about these issues that we once before didn't. I think that that's what Killmonger really represented. Someone who still wants to be a part of those people, but you don't respect what they do. You don't necessarily respect what they're about. I mean, we see it with the way that he burned all of the plants. We see it in the way that he sort of just came in. You have no understanding of the language. You're not really doing anything. You're just sort of like, I'm here, so what's up? I'm gonna run in, I'm gonna run things. But that's not how life works. We have to learn how to adjust, things don't adjust to you.
What's changing between the whole African Americans not being seen the same as African is that I think a lot of African Americans, especially African Americans, are starting to identify with being African, and they're starting to accept it and embrace it. Not even just accepting it; they want to be a part of it.
And I
I
think
feel like for me personally, I was misled by the film because the film is called Black Panther, and the movement Black Panther was created the same exact year in 1966. So in my
Boy, this is
intentional.
wait, hold on, let me finish.
Okay.
I was expecting, since they had like a black cast, it was strictly Black power. I was expecting for them to touch some of the Black issues we were having, but I felt like throughout the whole movie they were just fighting for power. They were not really like.
well, it's about the superhero
It's a
of Black
comic book,
Panther.
yeah, it's a comic
I
book
know,
movie,
but
yeah.
it's about Black power, right? And
No,
it-
it's
there's this quote, right? It says, that was from that was from Eric's character. He said, "Buy me in the ocean with my ancestors that jumped from ships because they knew dream was better than bondage."
Yeah, Killmonger.
Killmonger, Eric.
The same point you're making about how there was no connection to Black Panther movement, that's why they added that in.
Right, but
So
what
that
I'm
people
saying-
like
But
you
it
were
wasn't-
saying,
there
there was no connection to Black Panther movement. That's why
It
they
wasn't
put that
meant to
in
be the
there.
direct
Right.
Black Panther. The Black Panthers were a social organization in America. This is about.
America.
It's all
This is literally a comic book
This is supposed to
Yeah.
stem
One
off
character,
of the
comic
actual
book.
comic book.
Right, but the thing is, since they made the movie, this
About the comic
Wait, I thought
character.
it was gonna be about
No.
like
What I
the
was
movement.
saying is because the movement was also created the same exact year.
No.
We gotta educate you on comic books.
No. Because the thing is, the book was written in 1966, and also Black Panther, the movement was also created
I'm
the
well
same
aware.
year.
I follow comics.
Okay,
Do you know why
bottom
that
line is, let me finish. But bottom line is, if we're making this film about Black power and all the issues that's going on, because they focused on feminism in the film. Right, but then the whole film, they were just showing these Black men fighting for power. I didn't really feel like they were really like teaching me anything about African culture, Black.
And I think you took it a little differently because it wasn't about two Black men fighting for power. It wasn't that. They were fighting to hold on to their material, like vibranium. Like it was really about them fighting over the vibranium and keeping the
See, but hold
vibranium.
up, that's-
It is
hold
a
up.
comic at the end. It's a comic. It's a fictional
Hold up,
character.
that's the problem, and that's the reason why I feel like this wasn't good for the culture. You see her, like, your answer right there, you miss way
Missed
over.
the
You
entire
missed the whole thing.
Listen.
No,
listen.
I interpreted
I
it
know,
differently.
Listen, I'm saying,
I think
look,
you took social media. I think you took social media because
You had
social media
expertise.
made it all about that.
The movie was not meant to serve as an explanation for you with feminism, blackness,
It
all of that.
wasn't.
It's nice that it might have also touched on those things, but
you
that was
kidding?
not the premise of the
So you
film.
don't think it was purposely done that they were like focusing on having a woman group of like
But that's part of the culture.
It's African culture where
that
has nothing to do with
women
Black
are
Panthers.
typically
It's African
warriors
culture.
in African culture. This book was
They are
written
women
like
soldiers.
how many
They are
years
women
ago,
soldiers.
and they're
Right,
bringing
but
it
they felt
back.
like it was important for them to touch on it because of all the things that's going on, correct?
No,
It's part of the storyline.
That
It's
is the
actually
story
part of
of
the
the-
I
storyline.
watched some of the interviews and the things that those actors were
Have you ever
saying.
read the comic?
Did you read the comic
It's
book?
not about the comic.
It is about the comic.
You're not about to disrespect. You're not.
17 is delusional about, much like the audience that went to go see Black Panther. These people went there with the assumption from social media that this was supposed to be some wildly empowering black movie. And there were some things to pull from it, but the themes that some people were going in preface to think that that's what they were going to get out of it, I think that's where you get the extremists that took it as some type of political movement, something that it was more so besides it just being a superhero movie.
No, well, with the whole conversation, they were acting like because I had a different perspective, that means I didn't know what the film was about. Personally, for me, I'm an actress and I was watching the film with different eyes. I was paying attention to the plot and what the message was. I was not just watching it like a regular person that went to the theater to see a superhero film. I was watching for different things. So if you don't understand it, that's fine, but don't make it seem like I don't know what I was talking about or I didn't have any right to have my own opinions or my own perspective.
This movie would not have happened if there wasn't a comic book.
Let me tell you.
This is why
I honestly think the reason why you feel the way you feel is because you're misinformed about the movie.
No, it's not.
Exactly.
Period.
That's what it is.
Have you watched
Any other superhero movie? Real
Yes,
quick.
I have.
Any Marvel movies?
Avatar, I've seen Avatar.
So
Avatar is
exactly.
not- I really do admire Sam Antina's passion when she does react to certain things. My concern is there's a lot of issues that I have with people that are misinformed about a lot of things that they're passionate about, and then they don't do their research or enough. I'm really holding back right now.
Wait, hold on. Don't say you're educating me because I did my research before I came here. So don't come taking shots.
This movie had nothing to do with the Black Panther movement.
Right, but I'm not.
The only reason why the Black Panther character even exists because Stan Lee, who is a white dude, grew up in the States and was around for the Black Panther movement and thought that it would be nice for young black kids
to see
a character that they could see on screen that wasn't Batman, that wasn't Superman, that wasn't Wonder Woman, that wasn't white. That they got the
You did
character
not have
to
these
inspire
expectations
them.
for the rest of the other comic movies, like you didn't. So yes, and so this is not the job of Black Panther.
Being like, wow, there really isn't a black Barbie. Let's create a black Barbie.
The
Let's
way,
just do that. To say it isn't about the Black Panther movie isn't to diminish the movement or to minimize the importance of the movement's influence to the series. Stan Lee, the creator of the Black Panther comic book series, was actually very much involved in the civil rights movement. A lot of people don't know that. An American, a Jewish American, that was able to identify with the civil rights movement because he also came from a marginalized people. They had just experienced the aftermath of the Holocaust, so they're going through that. So he also recognized through his friendships with a lot of people of color in the entertainment industry back in the 60s and the 70s, like he understood there was room for them to have a voice in comics.
The reason why I felt that way was because people were making such a big deal about it, especially with black people. Yes, black people were like, I'm going to wear my African outfit to go to the film.
But what's wrong with that?
It has nothing to do with anything.
But what I'm saying, they were saying that because he has this movie, a movie we've never seen before, a role where a black person is a king and is exalted, and that's never been done before. Yes, it should have. There's many different genres that it could have played into, but it is a comic book.
Superhero
It's a superhero movie.
It's a comic book.
And that's the reason why that culture.
Everything they saw in the movie
The
was
culture
coming from
is
the comic book.
and that's what I'm
Everything.
saying. Everyone wanted to make Black Panther about more than what it was about.
But
And
it's
the
a
main
comic.
thing that people would try to make a point. oh, this was the point that was killing me, but I didn't want the Hoteps and everybody to come for me. Yeah. You sitting there,
I go against Hoteps all the time, which is why this conversation is fun for me.
Look what happens when black people come together to promote black excellence, because it ended up grossing more ticket sales than Titanic. Correct. First of all, people that make that point have to be the most idiotic people ever. Did you see the demographic breakdown of the ticket sales? Black people did not account for the billions of sales that occurred with the ticket. Black people weren't even the leading demographic that watched the movie. There's a bunch of there's a Marvel
fan base.
That's
so large, way bigger
than the black population. There's a bunch of people that went to the movie that were literally, they could have been
fans
white, Asian, whatever, and they went there because they loved Black Panther. They were making people, like, I was seeing things like it was over the top. They said they had black people staring at white people in the movie. They was making it like it was about real talk. There was people. That's what people was running about that. It wasn't supposed to be like that. This movie is a movie about a comic character, and that's what I'm talking about. The thing I want to say about that is black people contributed a little bit, but it's not, the black community didn't push it over Titanic as the top grossing film. Everyone in total, if you look at the demographics of the people that saw the movies, it was a collective effort from the Marvel fans. Like, I'm sure that Infinity War that's coming out, I'm sure it's gonna get a high grossing amount of sales. Like, it's a Marvel movie. There's people all over the world that went to go see Black Panther. And I just think that controlling that narrative to try to say that only blacks push that agenda forward, I think it's kind of foolish.
So my question is, as black people, what did you learn from the film? What did you get out of it? What did you feel like the message was for you as a black person?
What I learned is that there's a strong disconnect between African Americans and Africans. The whole thing between Killmonger and T'Challa was that he felt like Africans should have been, Wakanda should have been contributing to all the black people, all around the world. But T'Challa felt like, no, like, that's not my problem. We gotta worry about us. And I feel like that's strong in the African community. Like, we just kind of worry.
I think it's bigger than that, though.
No,
it's a part of it.
It's a part of it. It's a little part of it.
That's
a little part of it. Like, the African.
No. If you're not born in Africa, you're not African.
So if you know all the way,
Technically,
you talk.
Nationality-wise, but ethnicity
is different. But I think where you're born plays a huge role.
I know. What if there are people who are born in America, but they're not raised here, though?
I feel like it needs no explanation. Yes, there is a difference between nationality and ethnicity, but where you are born is what you are. You can go home and your parents can raise you with the morals and you can eat the food, but when you step outside of the door, guess where you are? You're in that country. And I think just even like on a metaphysical level, the land that you are born in is sort of like instilled in you. So, if you're born in Australia, you're Australian. And if you're born in Africa, you're African. And if you're not born in Africa, you're not African.
Tina, either way, when me and Bridget go to Ghana, we are not respected as Ghanaians.
Yes.
And the same, to be honest, when I go to Nigeria, they know it's the American that
American
speaks our language, eats our food.
And there was a disconnect. What Jarrell said actually really hurt me, because I think that what she said is often the message that's sent from other people to people like me. Being born in Africa does not make me African. And we have to understand that identities can be defined in numerous ways. Even though my nationality is American, everything I eat, breathe, and sleep is African. I am Ghanaian at heart. The parents that raised me are Ghanaian. The food that I eat is Ghanaian. I go back and forth. And so when we create this line where it's like, you should be this, you should be that, based off of where you were born, something that you didn't even have control over, when someone is telling you that, no, the identity that I feel most pulled to is something else, it's wrong to box people into what you think that they should be, because to you, they're not the authentic definition of whatever that is. I think that what you need to do when you're making that claim is draw a line between ethnicity and nationality, right? My nationality is American because I was born here, but ethnically and how I identify myself as African because the food I eat, the language spoken at home, my name, etc. is all Ghanaian.
But when you go out into the world, what do you say? You say you're American,
No,
right?
I thought you were Nigerian first.
Americans don't do that.
I thought you were Nigerian first.
Yes. I'm American.
Wait, were you born in America?
I was person. I only got here.
But
I know Americans that say they're American.
I'm from South Africa.
You've never met an American that said I'm American.
Yeah.
There are many Americans.
I literally grew up with Americans that said they were American.
They always talk about their ethnicity
If they
before
have
their
one.
nationality.
You gotta remember, in the Yoruba culture, you are
But
where
if you
you are where
identify
your
more
father's from.
strongly with another identity, you should be allowed to claim that first.
It gets even
But
deeper.
that's crazy.
It's not
That's
that
crazy
crazy. It
because you're
depends on the person, right?
you know,
So I grew
But
up in
at home,
Connecticut.
if you being raised like I'm Haitian, when I was home, I was raised as a Haitian person. My grandmother doesn't speak English, so when I go out there, I'm not gonna be like, well, I'm American. No, I'm Haitian first because that's what I grew up around.
Do Haitians like accept you as Haitian?
Yes, because I speak Creole and
But you were born there though.
yes, but
So
I.
it doesn't really apply to you.
You're proving the point.
I
You're proving the point. So you know
I came here when I was younger, and there are people
Are
who
we
came.
talking about
Wait a minute.
But you
hold on.
can't talk about
Wait.
that. You can't relate to what we're
when
talking
people
about.
ask you if
It
you're born in
doesn't apply
Haiti,
to
you
you,
say
though.
yes.
People never ask me if I was born in Haiti. I always tell them I was born in Haiti.
So then they don't need to ask you.
Right,
tell
but the
them.
thing is, they don't think I was born in Haiti. Because we're talking.
17, what is the relevance to
No, because
this?
the thing is, we're talking about American culture, correct?
No, we're talking about African
No.
culture and American culture.
We're talking about the
Let's go back to the disconnect. Let's go back to the
There's a disconnect because just like you missed the point in the movie, you missed Jarrell's point. You just missing it. And he's going fume. And it's going by you. It's going by you.
What point?
You keep
San Martino's going off topic. The moment she pulled out her journal, I was ready to walk off the stage because you sat there and took notes and you came in hot and ready with this political argument and it had nothing to do with it. She missed the point that we made on the show. She missed the point of the movie. I think what Tunde said would be a great suggestion. I think she should watch the movie again with a more calmer lens and realize that it's a superhero movie.
No, never even addressed her point, though.
Either way, the issue between Eric, it wasn't an issue between Eric and just T'Challa. It was all of Wakanda that was like, who is this guy?
The same dichotomy you saw with Nakia and Okoye. Nakia thought everybody should be helped in the world and all these missions and going to the jungles of Africa, saving girls. And then Okoye was like, no, we're going to protect
Keep
our
it in
people.
the family. And not even
Let's
that,
chill out.
T'Challa had an
T'Challa's
issue with
best
that.
friend.
He was upset with his uncle. He said, why did you leave him there?
exactly.
It was a father. It was not T'Challa.
And the uncle eventually was sacrificed for his decision.
Exactly.
So it's a whole lot of themes that played out that you had to think deeper than the surface. Like, okay, these are all themes that are all interconnected. So I think that's maybe what you missed.
So hold on. So how come when Kilo? What's his name? What's the character? Yeah. So how come when he lost the fight, he killed himself?
He didn't kill
He didn't die. He didn't die. He died. How did he die?
Listen, he was already gonna die. He already got defeated in battle. But the thing was, the Wakandan technology, they could have brought him back. He was like, listen, if you want, we can bring you back. He said, no, I'm not gonna live as a
I don't
prisoner.
think he's dead, if we're being honest with you. I think he's going to come back in the second movie, but that's neither here nor there. I don't think you watched the movie deep
No,
enough.
because I'm like,
He was dead, but look, this is the
dead,
thing.
but
It's
a
the
lot of
same.
people died
It's
in
the
that
same
movie
way
that are
the
not
cop,
dead.
the cop that died, and when they were in America,
So
when they
he's
brought
dead, but then he's gonna come back to life?
when they brought
That's another story.
Don't confuse it.
Let me not
When they brought the first cop over, he had the bullet wound in his spine. She was able to bring him back. He should have died right there. It was the same
So that should
situation.
tell you.
He could have been brought back to life, but if he was brought back to life, he was gonna be a prisoner forever in Wakanda, which is why he stated, I would rather die than be held captive. Which is the whole theme about
he's
slavery.
making a point, but bottom line is we're discussing the film, so he's just making a point, like trying to explain something to me. So
We've
I don't.
all been trying to explain to you.
No. You're saying like, are you gonna explain? I already saw the film,
Well,
so there's no
apparently
need.
you didn't
No.
watch it
I
deep
don't
enough.
need you to. You need to stop. You need to stop making your little subliminal comment.
Not a subliminal comment.
You're making your little smart comment.
Not
Bottom
little
line is
or
we're
smart.
discussing this film, correct? I felt like Tunde was acting like I was clueless about the film, or I didn't know what was going on, or I didn't do my research. It doesn't matter. I had my own perspective on it. Why it's such a big deal? Why, if I disagree, it's a problem? I don't have to agree with you guys.
Okay, I like genuinely like. You know I got love for you, boo. But I really, I think that we just explaining what should already be understood in terms of the facts of the movie.
Yeah.
And we're missing the point of the question, which is, what did this do well or not for black culture?
Yeah.
And so, what I will say to get back to that question is that I feel that all of the points that people are bringing up in terms of like identity, nationality, et cetera, are all conversations that happen as a result of people going to see the movie, and that
From
I
that
think
lens.
yes, from that lens.
Too serious.
But yes, I do agree that in a lot of ways that people have taken a comic book and made it much more than it should be. But I also respect people taking representation and culture and comments like that from something that did display it and having an accurate conversation about it, because it's necessary. We were ignoring these topics before. We were not paying attention to the divide between African Americans and Black people and Africans. We weren't not on a national space.
This is really the biggest theme, because for me watching it, the biggest theme was like Black people and Africans as a whole coming off as like the underdogs, not being appreciated for what Africa really is. Because a lot of people don't understand that Africa is not some destitute land that, you know, you go to and it's like fine. And I think that was the whole thing for me watching it.
Regardless of what,
I never once for a second thought about the fact, oh, African Americans and Africans are different. Now I looked at it as, wow, like a new way to look at Black people, a new way to look at Africa as a whole. It was beautiful.
But even I still think that it's doing well for Black culture. Even if that's what you took for it. Like that's not to say that like someone is right for taking a specific image from thing or not.
The biggest theme.
So for you, because your privilege allows you not, like your privilege of being born in Africa, being raised in Africa, doesn't allow you to see another soul.
It's very interesting. Very interesting. Because I didn't see that at all.
Part of the thing that's interesting about what you said is part of the whole premise of the movie was Wakanda shielding their entire identity from the entire rest of the world, so that they were perceived as a impoverished third world country to protect themselves. It was a means of
they were called the
to
poorest
a point,
country.
to a point where they didn't even know something else was going wrong in the world.
It was a means of survival for them. So that was another theme of the story. So when you have Agent Ross coming in and who's other Claw?
They thought that was the only piece of
stealing vibranium.
It was like,
they thought they stole all the vibranium in the country when literally it was like a rice.
Yeah.
Compared to
But
But had they had known that Wakanda had all this vibranium, what would have happened though? The colonizers, as they said in the movie, would come and take everything from them. I think we should hide our resources. Just like Wakanda does, until we're developed enough to where we're not getting our electricity shut off every few days and where we can get running water 7 days out of the week. Yes, I do think that we should be selfish. Other countries have been selfish with their goods. America or other countries have been selfish with our goods. So why not be selfish with our own resources?
It's a misunderstanding of the rest of the world about the wealth that Africa really has.
But that
that's what the story was about.
I think honestly, even the vibranium now, I think can be related to gold.
Yeah,
or diamonds. I think Africa,
or oil, or every other resource in Africa.
And if we kind of kept that together, we would be exactly what Wakanda is. And I feel like
we are though.
I agree, but
we are not there.
No,
we are not there.
We have to switch our mentality because our mentality isn't there.
I do go.
It's beautiful.
Well, I mean, in my honest opinion, I saw the reference of vibranium in the movie as the same as gold or even diamonds. I mean, a lot of people know that Africa, the country, and the continent itself holds a lot of the best minerals that have been stolen over the years. And if they were able to kind of hone in on gold and diamonds, just like the movie, who knows where Africa could be today?
There is infrastructure. It is developed. There is a
these are very select places.
Because if you go to Nigeria, the lights still don't stay on for 24 hours.
There are places in Nigeria that are well done. That's what I'm saying.
But that's not
But to say to compare what Africa is now to what Wakanda is not there. We have not taken full advantage of the resources that we have.
Because
They're stolen from us. We also don't know how to make the most out of it.
I'm not saying that we don't have work to do. We do have work to do. But the perception is what is not completely accurate.
People
And
in
I think
Nigeria
that's
are
what
struggling right now. I get text
there
messages
isn't
and WhatsApp.
struggle.
I get
didn't
WhatsApp
say
messages.
there
Hold
isn't
on.
struggle.
This is the problem.
That
It's like, Jarrell,
misconceived
what you're saying is
how bad it is. And
It
it's
is
not
very
all
bad.
Hold on.
It is very bad right now.
Hold on.
As Americans.
So here we go with Americans versus
Americans.
So now the disconnect.
Africa's not destitute. We have a lot to work on, but I think we are not what is believed that we are. I think there is infrastructure, there is beauty, there's good things going on in Africa that we don't get recognized for, and that there's not enough attention being brought on the good things that are happening in Africa.
Jarrell, what you're saying is that it's the pride in you of where you're from in Africa, so you take everything as necessary disrespect. But when you look at the whole country of Wakanda and put that in perspective of like what America is, even the struggle in America is better than some of the high class in Africa. And and the point of the movie is like if Africa was able to keep their resources inland and didn't have people from France, didn't have the people from America, different countries,
Lebanese,
Belgium,
Syrian,
the Germans,
Chinese,
coming to do that,
Yes.
the African nations like Liberia, Nigeria, those countries would be way bigger than what they are.
Yes.
They wouldn't be third world countries because
I'm not
the amount
disagreeing
of
with that.
resources. So what I'm saying is
I'm just
instead
saying
of
that the perception is
The
not
perception-
as
The perception
is
bad
reality,
as what
though.
it
The perception is
Your
because-
perception is your reality, but that's not everyone's
The
reality.
perception
There
of
are
one-
people there
of
that
one
haven't
city
eaten
is the
today.
land. You're like,
It
the
is
land
it
is
is
beautiful.
nighttime.
I'm not
It is
just
nighttime
saying
still
the
there
land,
right
I'm saying
now.
the infrastructure, the development.
There's
the-
development in like, okay, let's say there's 20 cities. Africa may have 1 for 20, where one city out of the 20 is fully developed, like a Johannesburg, like a Lagos, like one. If there was 20 cities in America, 20 for 20 is developed. Everything has infrastructure.
Even let's say
Everything.
19 for 20, cool.
19,
That's still
it's
enough
still
resources
so
to help
much.
that
It
point
could be
there.
it could be so much greater. So that thing is like there's a big problem at because Africa can't hold on to the things that all it's doing is getting raped for
When you hear
everything.
when you hear
What I'm
about when you
saying
hear about a
about the
Flint,
movie,
when you hear
though-
about a Flint in the United States, it's a big deal because that's not common.
That's not
You
common
don't
in America.
expect that. You don't expect to
The
go to
people
a
in
city,
Liberia wish
open up
they
a
had a
tap,
Flint.
open up tap water, and have
Yeah.
brown water coming out. That is normal in Africa.
But what I'm saying about what the movie did for the culture, though, is that it opened up the idea that there's more to Africa and that
Sure.
it is a place that is
There's opportunity.
working on that
Yes,
is working
you're
on
saying
becoming
that's-
You're saying it is
I
racist.
said that it is built up and is not as bad as people think it is.
No, people think it's exactly what it is.
It
That's
is.
that's the
And that's
point.
what I'm saying.
But that's what I'm saying.
But
For me,
maybe
that's
you're
what the
looking
movie
at South
had to
Africa.
do.
You know what?
To
I
just
see
do
the
that, they
point.
had to hide their resources. Gerard, I understand what you're saying, but if you look at Wakanda had to lie and hide what they have to keep their riches and to keep their technology to look like that. If we were able to do that in our own countries, we would be like that. But
And
it's
we
not the
tried to
case
do
at
that,
all.
and it just doesn't work.
And it doesn't work
they come
because
to
they
the-
come
no
and
trade,
take
you know
and
what?
take and take.
Which is the connection to the black people.
The resources in Africa are some of the resources that have empowered most countries in the Western world and in Europe as well, the resource that they come in and take. If Africa was able to do something like Wakanda, those African nations were able to, hide from the colonizers or hide from the outside, conquerors, they would be able to manifest those type of progressive nations. But until that can happen and until the governments in African nations can realize the wealth and the value in their own country, that's the only way it's gonna happen.
Greedy governments. We have greedy. We got
we have greedy
corruption.
governments.
We got governments who care about themselves,
Right.
and they'll work with foreigners and like, all right,
And
let me see
foreigners
the best
come
I
and
can
see-
get
and
it
they
in.
see with the resource. But what I'm saying is, you see these conversations and how riled up everybody is over a comic book movie. They was Thorogood. There was Hidden Figures. There was so many powerful black movies about real shit, and we talk about these fictional, made-up things. That pisses me off. We have to talk about things. Wakanda's not real. Black Panther
But
is
it's
not
not
real.
about Wakanda not being real.
this-
It's
but
not about Wakanda not being real. It was about having kids.
Yes,
That's like saying
Yes.
we should have never got a black Barbie. That's
No,
just no. It doesn't have
Yeah,
to be
it's a
also
conversation
political.
starter.
Yes.
It's just a
I
comic
agree.
book.
The
We had to
conversation
show
started.
kids that there are such thing as having a black superhero.
Yes.
That black people don't always
Yes.
have to be the villain.
Oh,
that
no.
was the whole
I
point.
understand exactly what you're saying.
Just like how we have a black Barbie doll, for little black girls to have a toy that looks like them. I think that it's important that we have a black superhero for little black boys to feel like I don't always have to be the villain. A lot of times the darker colored person is the villain. And if we have a superhero who is black, little black boys can go into the store and buy a toy that looks like them, just like little black girls can go and get a black Barbie.
I think it's important for black kids to just see black people representing it in a positive light, because there's a lot of times where the stereotypes fall into play, where a black person is either a crackhead, drug dealer, gangster, from a broken home. It's just a whole bunch of things that are put together, and I feel like, yeah, this is a stereotype that may be true for a big part of the black community, but I feel like we need to portray what we want to see instead of portraying what we're already seeing.
What you're saying, and there's another movie or TV show, I should say, that's perfect for this. Like, I don't know if you guys watch Black Lightning. I like the way that Black Lightning, like in the town, not to go too far on, but it's similar where like the principal is black, the assistant principal is black, the top cops in the place is black, and the biggest enemy of Black Lightning, the superhero, is actually a gang. So it's like he's fighting crime, and the leader is an albino black dude. So it's like there's a lot of symbolism. Like the top lawyers, all the best jobs in the city of Freeland are all held by black people, and the gang the piece of evil that they're fighting is drugs in the street, and it's a gang. And I think that's a very powerful statement. But what I'm saying is, like, it doesn't have to be the outrage that people were getting. Like, there was legitimate racial conflict over this movie. Like, I literally see people like really getting into real racial debates.
I honestly think part of that is, again, because there are individuals similar to Sabatina that took it out of context. I'm not saying you're wrong.
Not in a bad way. But I honestly
honestly
felt like Black Panther, calling the film Black Panther, and also with the Beyonce performance at the Super Bowl. Wait.
Yo, when the Beehive played,
When she performed and paid homage to Black Panther, I felt like people were expecting more.
No one was expecting.
You weren't, but I feel like don't say Samantha. No, what I was saying is, because Beyonce did the whole contribution with the whole Black Panther film, Black Panther theme when she performed at the Super Bowl, I felt like that also put idea of Black power in a lot of people's head.
The only one expecting that.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not kidding.
So I think this is the thing. I think when people are referencing like black things, there's this other concept that comes that it has to be super black. It has to be super for the culture. And it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be a norm.
I mean, in all honesty, I think, a lot of people took Black Panther a little too serious, as opposed to just the Marvel comic that it was meant to represent for, African American kids to see that, they can be anything and everything that they want to be. It not necessarily more of a religious or a politic type of manner. I think a lot of people just took it out of context.
I'm saying this is, and that goes back to the fact that you even linked Beyonce into this. Hold on. This is a real point.
Yes.
Like, Malcolm X said this. He was like, black people are the only people who look to entertainers, athletes, fictional characters for this leadership from people that did not assign for that. People that didn't go hunting for that.
Beyonce
People
got a check to do that.
black this empowerment from Beyonce. I didn't get what she did at Coachella.
She gave empowerment.
You said the Black Panther movie from her on stage with Destiny's Child twerking.
Are you kidding? That's not what I was referring to. That's not what I was referring to.
I know all of them.
Yeah, exactly. It's obvious. A lot of people looked up to Muhammad Ali. He was an entertainer. A lot of entertainers do things for the black community. So we do look up to them because they're on television. And it's just one of the things that come with the territory.
I honestly think you just should have done your research.
No
disrespect.
No, don't say don't. I should have done my research.
Disrespectful. I'm telling you.
You are being disrespectful. You
Literally, if you Googled Black Panther comic book, everything we're saying right now would have been clear to you.
Right, but
I don't see how it wouldn't have been clear to you.
But
I literally can't see it.
What I'm explaining to you is the way things were portrayed. I felt
Twitter.
I was misled. That's
Where
what
was it portrayed?
On social media.
So that's the problem.
So that's what I'm saying.
Twitter will tell you.
Back to the question. Back to the question.
Nothing to do with research. Tunde and Shabazz, please stay in your lane. We can all agree to disagree. There's no need to be rude or try to make your little subliminal comments or trying to be disrespectful because that's not what I signed up for.
I'm in the entertainment industry, so I do come across a lot of people that think because they see things on Twitter or, they have, watched the music video or they like a rapper or whatever, that they are informed about a topic or something that is being addressed by said medium. And that's not always the case. Some people are just not capable enough to grasp the topics that are being discussed by a lot of these entertainers, Beyonce included.
I feel like people think because I interpreted it differently from them, that means I was delusional or I didn't understand what the story was about. I understood the story and I don't need to see it again. I got it, but what I felt like was the way they were promoting it, they had a black director, black actors, predominantly black cast, and a lot of them were from Africa. And of course, black people is going to make a big deal out of it. And for Shabazz to say that black people did not help gas this film up is rude. Because why other superhero film from Marvel didn't do that as well?
Back to the question: do we think that the film overall, as a whole, was good for our culture?
Yes.
In my opinion, I feel as though it was because, like you said, it inspired a lot of these conversations. But not only that, it brought us together as a community. Now, I will refer and say, okay, what have we done with that after?
Correct.
Nothing.
That is
we made a great statement. We had our clothing.
But
it's only been 2 months though.
No.
It doesn't matter. We had that energy. Whatever we had everything in the palm of our hands to physically make changes, to physically do riots. Not necessarily riots, but actually, do whatever we need at that moment to make a statement.
I disagree with you though. I feel like a mentality change that little kid, like I went to go watch this movie with 3 little white boys and when we got out they were like arguing like I'm Black Panther, no I'm Black Panther, and just like
but that's what it was
just
about.
like
It's about
that's great for the younger generation that's coming up. I'll give that for the kids, but they can't do anything.
Black Panther
the kids
and
can't
being
do anything
like,
right now.
wow, I can be a superhero.
That's
so that
great.
the
I can be Clark Kent,
mentality.
but I don't look like Clark Kent, so I
But
really can't be Clark Kent.
You can only
mentality.
speak for the environment that you're in. You don't know what they're doing over, and you don't know what parts of Africa are thinking right now once they watch that movie.
But it's not even about parts of Africa. That's when we go back to the disconnect. Is what are we doing here in the States
Nothing's
for Africa?
Nothing. Everything is like this on social
think
media.
that's
I was just talking about that. Everything
that.
is a come and go phase. It's like let's praise it up, but then it's just gonna fade away. The same way the way stuff goes off of social media, people think that these things have ended. Like we talk about.
Shabazz, there are people that are working to make changes. It's
I
just
get that, but how long does it last?
But
Like
it's not
Flint.
about how long.
People stop talking about Flint. Flint still don't got clean water.
But there's still people advocating for Flint, though.
Sure.
There's still
But not
people
as much.
fighting for Flint.
Everyone's
It's not as
happy.
much because there's
Play
people
for
that
Flint.
just talk about it. So
It's
don't
still
be that
not done.
person that does that hashtag and only talk about it. What have you done for Flint? Did
I
you
didn't say
send
I've done
water?
it. I said
There's a
my
lot
cases.
of people like you, though, that feel like, oh, nobody's doing nothing for Flint, so do something for Flint then.
Okay,
You cannot
but
say, oh, it just come and goes, it just come and goes. It just come and goes because you choose for it to let it come and go.
Yeah.
That's
So
it.
Everybody's choosing for it to come and go. It's a phase. It's what's popular.
It doesn't
have to be a phase.
I think you're
I am
undermining
undermining
it.
the efforts
And I think
because it
that
doesn't last.
Jarrell's saying that a mentality change that's half of the battle that black people face in general. That is the majority of our fight. The fact that we cannot see sometimes past the systems that hold us back. So if this movie, if all it's done is just change the way that we think, that's enough for me. Yep. I don't think we should minimize the power of this movie, even if we're just saying that it's changed the mentality of the way that we think. That alone is enough. Movies are entertainment products at the end of the day. So if you're making a greater impact beyond that, beyond just someone just enjoying themselves at the movies, but you're actually making me go home, think, have conversations with people, that's a game changer. Black people, people in the diaspora, etc., we are often held back by the way that we think. We're constantly consumed by the systems that oppress us. Black Panther gives you a new energy to fight life, to get through, to survive, to make it. That is powerful. Because after that, then we can start seeing changes because people find it within themselves. It stops being about the movie. It's just because it comes from within. So for you to say that, oh, we came up with all this momentum, we need to be out there in the streets. Hold up. People are still settling into to the fact that somebody looks like me on camera and it's being shown all throughout the world. That's different.
And I agree. I'm starting to see the paradigm shift even in my own circles. Like people that never talked about going to Africa and seeing what's going on in Africa are organizing trips.
That's a huge change.
Asking me where they can get lace and get materials and stuff, and who's my tailor.
In America, I feel like, like African Americans really don't do a lot for Africa, and like,
we can say
it's a generalization, but there's some truth to it.
Are you saying you want Africa to do something for you as African Americans?
Wait, what did you say?
Did you say that?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I just feel like African Americans could do so much. That is your land. White people, they do for their Europe and Australia.
How can
I think you make an interesting point, but again, you're forgetting that there's an economical responsibility that comes with that, right? A lot of these white Americans that you describe that have these connections to Europe and whatever, to these other countries, they don't even really, because most of their resources came from Africa. So they don't really need people that are American.
How can African Americans
They're the ones that stole all of the resources, so of course they don't need their people.
Don't even accept African Americans.
But thanks to the movie, that's changing. That's another thing that's changing. Because growing up, you were made fun of for being African.
Absolutely.
Automatically. But now
it's cool.
Yeah, but now it's cool. Like, I don't know if y'all remember that in the movie when he brought the shit down and they were all tripping and all the kids ran to that shit. But there was that one kid that looked at T'Challa and he was like, "Is that yours?"
That's yours?
He was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Who are you?" In his mind, he was like,
curious.
He was just like a black dude that owns a shit. Not even a nice car. It's just he owns a shit. Yeah. Right. Who are you? How did you get here? And that's a big deal.
I definitely appreciate African Americans embracing the African culture. I know for a fact there's a lot of Africans who may feel like, oh nah, well you were cutting our ass back in days. Don't try to be a part of us now. And I feel like let them do that, because that's what we need. If anything, we need unity now. We don't need no disconnect. Like, that's one thing we don't need between each other. I really feel like we need that unity. So I say go for it, man. Go figure out where you came from, understand it, and embrace it.
I think that Africans don't accept African Americans because they feel like they may have been privileged or everything was handed to them. And when African Americans do go to Africa, they're not respected. It's like, oh, you're the American one that's just coming to visit. It doesn't matter that I may have started speaking Tree first. It doesn't matter that I eat the food at home, that my parents raised me with the same exact discipline and morals that they would have raised me even if we were in Ghana. It doesn't matter.
So I know that a lot of the feedback that I was getting from my friends after watching the movie was, oh, it's great to have all these black people coming together to watch this movie, but at the end of the day, like, Marvel is still owned by a bunch of white people that don't look like us, don't understand the culture, but have experts that are in the culture that are giving them the information for them to be able to create the movie. In fact, them hiring Ryan Coogler to direct the film was directly because they didn't have any directors in their circle that could have executed everything intricately the way he did. Everything from the design to the themes to the accents to the costumes of Kara Jones, everything from top to bottom. Without Ryan having access to all these various Africans that understand various areas of African culture, not just West, East, South, Central, everyone. But at the end of the day, Stan Lee and his group of non-people of color that are at the top are the ones that are making the bread at the end of the day. So
we shouldn't just focus on that. It's important, it's very important, but at the same time we have to look at it as a way to pave the way to now do our own production.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
actually support.
I think Ryan Coogler. I think actually there was some rumors going around that they were actually going to make a movie about King Musa.
Mansa Musa, yes.
Mansa Musa, who was the richest man to ever live, and he was a black man from Africa.
And he was one of the first kings to ever come to North America and establish culture here, but people don't talk about that.
And people, that's what I'm saying. Well, the history is written by the conquerors.
Look, at the end of the day, you could stand here and complain about who's writing the check, who's collecting the check. But at the end of the day, we know what it is. If you live in this country, you know who's writing the checks. For the most part, most of these Fortune 500 companies are not run by people that look like us. So you can complain about not getting the check and being stuck in poverty, or you can work up the ladder, get the check, and then empower people that look like you to also become a part of the system and become leaders in the system so that things can change.
But at the end of the day, who's getting the money though?
But that's what I'm saying. Like it's not, and that's
There's
the
a group
ticket
of- there's a
sales
group of
weren't
people
even
getting the money.
wholly responsible for the film grossing as much money as is. Traditionally, don't black films get a lesser budget than white films?
yeah.
And because of how much
Actors,
it grossed, I'm sure some of these actors, they're gonna move on to other movies, but I'm sure they got a big bag.
But the big check went to the white
At the
people.
top, the check
The
goes
top.
to Marvel,
Right.
Stanley, and every
The white people.
At least we got a black producer. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But it still went to the white people.
There's still art culture somewhere
way
there.
before
White
they
director.
shut the film, so
And it's dope 'cause,
they
like-
already got their own cut.
So I got to speak to Ryan before the movie came out, and he told me like he is inspired by Hollywood films. Like he watches everything, and he's aware of everything happening in Africa as much as he can be. So the fact that he was given an opportunity to do that, I thought that was really dope, and it opens the doors for a lot of other black film directors
producers.
that wouldn't have had an opportunity to do that. Like and Ava DuVernay. Right. So the interesting story about Ava DuVernay and Ryan Coogler is that they were editing their movies at the same time in the same
What's
room.
her movie that just
A Wrinkle
came
in
out?
Time.
Yeah.
So they were editing their movies at the same time and bouncing their ideas off each other. Ava DuVernay is just as connected to a bunch of Africans, both in Africa and here. So they were able to bounce a lot of their ideas off each other while directing their own movies. So I thought that was really interesting too. It just inspires a lot of other black filmmakers and film directors that I know are really talented, but they don't really get the opportunity to be on the grand stage like Ryan was allowed to.
When it's all said and done, I honestly think that, the movie Black Panther definitely caused a lot of conversation, and it definitely gained a black power movement that had already started, but it definitely added to the fire.
Overall, I think it was very positive, and I hope that the trend continues. I mean, I know there's talk about Black Panther 2 already being in production and the amount of talent that will be involved, and I really hope it just kind of continues to open the doors of communication and getting more black people involved in the entertainment space outside of talent.
I think Black Panther's gonna be remembered for that superhero movie that just like, that was a phenomenal. Like that just like, it broke records, it made like, not only black kids, but like black adults feel like, we're more than whatever they whatever they portray us on TV. We're bigger than that, we're more than that.
I think Black Panther is gonna be remembered for a few things. But the main two I would say is one, being just an amazing Marvel comic book movies for all my Marvel lovers. But for the person that might not necessarily understand Marvel as much, but is really just excited about the representation finally in film, that's a whole nother thing. Like, I know that I, as a black woman, as someone who comes across as pretty strong and passionate, this is the first time someone has said to me that, oh, you remind me of one of the warriors in the movie. That's positive. That's great. You're suddenly, you attribute me to something that's powerful and strong and worthy, and as opposed to someone who's aggressive, angry, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's what I'm getting left off with.
So I think rather than us focusing on who's financially benefiting from the movie being produced, I think we should more so focus on the people that are inspired to produce content that is even more inspiring than Black Panther moving forward. Because there's some kid that's gonna watch Black Panther and be like, wow, black dude produced this. Wow, look at all these black characters. I can do that now. You know what I'm saying? And then it just brings about more content that can inspire the rest of it.
Amen.
Black Panther will be remembered for being a positive, shedding a positive light on Africa and people of color as a whole.
I'd like to see more West African accents in Black Panther 2. I think it was a little off-putting for me to only see M'Baku, to have an authentic Nigerian accent.
Wakanda forever!
Wakanda forever!
Everyone says I look like a Koye. Whoosh. She bald, I bald, we dark,
Thanks for watching, and if you liked this episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. See you next time.